with the United States on issues relating to Haiti. To regards to Haiti, climate financing, the impact of climate change on our region, security, especially with regards to the influx of guns and ammunition coming from the United States into Caribbean countries, creating havoc with respect to crime and violence, and urging the United States to take more concrete actions with regards to stemming the flow of these guns and ammunition into our country. They have taken certain actions, especially with the creation of a special office to deal with the prosecution and investigation of reports of such. But we still believe that there are additional things that the U.S. can do and should do to stem the flow of guns within our region. We also raised the issue, discussed the issue with regards to correspondent banking. This issue we raised also with the congresspeople. The issue of blacklisting of our countries and the challenges and the problems this can create on our ability to trade. The number of our countries where we are seeing the literal departure of banks because of the issue of de-risking and the fear of losing correspondent banking. There's some banks that in fact lost the correspondent banking, and they are very, very reduced to a village bank, not really able to transact in the rest of the world, and one can appreciate the impact on the everyday person in our region. Of course, we raised the issue of the embargo against Cuba, sanctions against Cuba, and we reiterated our call to the United States to have this blockade against Cuba lifted, and also we urged the United States to remove the sanctions on Venezuela because the far-reaching implications of these sanctions on Venezuela, and we're very much strident in respect to these issues. We also had interaction with the Prime Minister of South Korea. South Korea is a long-standing partner of the Caribbean community over several decades, and the visit was well received. There were a number of areas of proposed collaboration and cooperation and assistance. The South Korean Prime Minister indicated that this country will increase fivefold its annual contribution to the Secretariat, and we welcome this area of support. But they use opportunities as well for training for young people, utilizing greater technology in agriculture and agricultural expansion in the region. So there are a number of things that we will follow the Korea on, so we can further collaborate. We also had interaction with the president of COP28. COP28 will be held in the United Arab Emirates, more specifically in Dubai, with Sultan, who is the Sultan Al-Jabbar, who is the president of the World Cup 28. And the whole idea is for us to ensure that at this COP28, that there really no talking and no promises, that we will come out of this COP28 with concrete action, concrete decisions. This idea of every time we go to a COP engagement, something new comes up, something proposal in the table, and we tend to forget. That is to say, the developed world tend to forget, or pretend that they forget, that they lead to the promises to us some 15 years ago, none of which have been manifested. Then we met in 2015 in Paris. There were signatures to an agreement to record, but nothing concrete has come out of this Paris Accord. So this issue of climate change and its impact on us is really too crucial for us not to get people to understand that they must not only talk and have fancy speeches and profound speeches and and thoughts, but we have to translate those into concrete actions. And if promises are made, those promises must be kept. And we must allow the people of world to move from this $100 billion a year. We've got 28 coming up. There has been discussion about well, very soon there will be $100 billion in the account. It almost classifies and so that we do not go in a strident manner at opportunity. But we liken the issue of climate crisis to an injustice, and we must not relent in our fight and ensuring that we continue to represent the interests of not only the Caribbean region, but all countries that are impacted by the climate crisis. We met with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who is a dear friend of the Caribbean community. His mere presence at our conference as a special guest is testament to his commitment and his profound and sincere interest in advancing some of the issues confronting us here in the Caribbean. And we spent an hour and a half in discussions with him after the opening ceremony, and the entire hour and a half was on Haiti. Haiti was so crucial at this conference. They occupied a serious chunk of our engagement as we seek to find a solution to the situation confronting our brothers and sisters in Haiti. We had and we still have the presence of our UK Cabinet Minister, Minister David Brockley, who addressed us and brought greetings to us from the government of the United Kingdom, a strong partner and a strong advocate on the issue of climate change and ensuring that their colleagues in that group of nations can really fulfill their commitments to us. And we thank the government for the strident support and engagement. We had also a special presentation from the Vice Minister of the People's Republic of China at the time of the tributes and planning for the partnership and collaboration as well. We have made it very clear in our discussions and in our decision with regards to the accession of Martinique and Curacao to CARICOM. And we have mandated that all of the outstanding negotiations with the agreement should be completed before the end of August. So by September, we can have that decision ratified and have Martinique as a special ceremony in Guyana, when we travel to Guyana in February, so that we can have a formal ceremony welcoming Martinique and Curacao to this board. We recognize the associate members and the expression to be more involved in the Caribbean community, and this is something that we wish to encourage and to certainly provide support to the associate members in the move to become more involved and engaged within the Caribbean community. Because the reality is, this is one Caribbean, and we should not be in a situation where we're skipping ducks. We have to connect all the ducks, and the intention is to connect all the ducks, and shows that CARICOM is a voice of reason. CARICOM is a voice that attracts the attention of the world, because once we're united, I think we can address a number of issues. On the issue of free movement, we deliberate on this matter. We have taken a decision to seek to have the free movement of all categories of people to live and work. Obviously, there are some legal issues that we have to examine, and we are giving the legal people some months to examine those legal issues and to ensure that they can come to us by 30th of March to take a definitive position on this. And so we understand that there will be some challenges for some. but we are committed to this. In addition to the movement, there is certain contingent rights that will be associated with the improvement of the access to primary health and emergency health, access to basic education, pre-primary, primary, and secondary education. Of course, we have the social security agreement in place already that people can benefit from. But we believe this is a fundamental part of the integration architecture. And at 50, we could not leave children to live and not speak about the core of the integration movement. That is people's ability to move freely within the Caribbean community. And I think we would have served and have served the community well at this meeting by arriving at that decision. And we hope that to see that it will be implemented by the 30th of March 2024. So this is great news. I think I believe with all the issues that we have discussed and the number of decisions we've taken, this is the decision that we've taken at this conference. And I believe the founding fathers are smiling from heaven that the present generation of leaders were bold enough to arrive at a decision moving forward. We have also taken the decision to hold a retreat in Dominica of Hyatt, August 18 and 19. I have been clear to all of us that these suits and ties and will all stay home, that we will be in t-shirts and jeans and shorts possibly, focusing on some critical and core issues of the community, so that when we get to Guyana, before we get to Guyana, we can put a number of issues in place and clarity to the discussions. And we're hoping that that can become a regular feature, because when you are less stiff with all of this clothes on, then you might think a little better. And I think, and being in the fresh mountain breeze of Dominica, where your nostrils are cleared and your mind is cleared and all the stress away, then you'll be in a better way to think and to arrive at some decisions. So we look forward to this. We'll be reviewing the governance issues within CARICOM and other areas, including functional cooperation. We certainly have to enhance functional cooperation among our nations. These are the things which matter to the average person on the streets in the Caribbean community, that they can see tangible benefits in all of these fancy decisions and all of these documents, but how do we make life better for people? And we spoke about hassle-free travel. When you get to a point, you don't have to be harassed. We have to feel, the ease of moving from one country to the other within the Caribbean community, and so this is very important. Finally, on cricket, cricket. I still believe that we have to rally around the West Indies. We'll be hosting the West Indies and India next week in Dominica. And certainly I'm urging all my citizens and residents to come out and to support West Indies cricket. Our comments about West Indies cricket comes out of because of our passion, our commitment for the game. And the reality is we do not want to lose, and we do not like to lose. And when we lose, we get vexed. Not because we have any personal issue with anybody, but we need there to appear to be a fighting spirit. We take it personal. And so the comments of the great Prime Minister here of Trinidad and Tobago on his Facebook page is out of his passion and as a West Indian, and ensuring that he should be shouting in excitement and not kicking his toe against the wall in frustration by this. By Chairman decree, I have appointed him as the
as the new chairman of the subcommittee, Prime Ministerial Subcommittee on Cricket, we have agreed with the president of the West Indies Cricket Board, or West Indies Cricket, to meet sometime next week, where we shall meet to discuss West Indies cricket and how we can work together. How we can work together to better position our cricket in the Caribbean, in the West Indies, so that we can come back to the glorious days that we're all known for across the world. And I see our UK friends are smiling because they're winning these days, you know. I mean, back in these days, we'll bowl these guys for 46 runs, you know. So, and we'll come back to those days, Minister Rotley and so on, to be able to bowl England for 46, while we would have scored 460. The issue of food and nutrition security, I want to place on public record our profound gratitude and thanks and acknowledgement to the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana for his leadership, for his diligence on the issue of food and nutrition security. We're making great strides. The reports coming out from our respective countries. There's a heightened interest on the part of farmers, investments in agriculture. With our move to reducing our import bill by 25% by 2025. And so there are some concrete plans. We're mobilizing the resources, both financial and technical. There are agreements being signed between and among ourselves. There's sharing of knowledge, there's sharing of expertise, there's sharing of resources. It is truly a united front in seeking to improve and increase the production and the quality of agricultural produce within the Caribbean community. But at the end of the day, we have to eat what we produce. So the power really is not in the hands of the government. The power of reducing the food import bill is in the hands of the people, the consumers of the Caribbean. The supermarkets will sell what we buy. Okay? You understand? For the ladies, we can see that with regards to the eyelashes, we see the major importation of eyelashes in the Caribbean because we're buying it. And I think if we can buy the agricultural produce, you know, and demand the agricultural produce, then the supermarkets and the restaurants will sell to you what you want to buy. You know, and all of the acrylic nails and so forth, let us, when you go to supermarkets, demand the items from Guyana, demand the items from Trinidad and Tobago, demand the items from Barbados, from St. Lucia, and we will see how quickly we can reduce the food import bill in the Caribbean. I will stop here to receive any questions. All difficult questions you ask to the rest of my colleagues. The easier ones you ask to me, please. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
But I also want to say, you know, we have a wonderful group of leaders working together. And the spirit of camaraderie, the willingness to give and to take. And I think the region is a very good time now to be able to capitalize on the number of actions that we need to take. And I believe coming out of Dominica, you will see even a renewed sense of vigor and determination and commitment to working together and ensuring that the governance issues and the functional cooperation matters are dealt with and so forth. So I am very impressed. I've been around for some time, but this meeting was really a wonderful one, and I want to commend all my colleagues, both the full members and the associate members, for the commitment. They worked very hard, and certainly in these 6 months they'll be working very, very hard. Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Just to indicate that when you wish to ask your questions, could you please indicate your name and the agency that you represent. We have a full table of leaders, including the President of Suriname, His Excellency the President of Suriname, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, His Excellency the President of Guyana, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, the Prime Minister of Barbados, and the Secretary General. So, as I indicated, when you wish. And, of course, our host and the chairman. So that as I said before, when you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand and indicate your name and the agency you represent. Warren?
Thank you, Leonard. Good evening, distinguished leaders. Prime Minister...
And you are?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oren Gordon, freelance broadcaster and journalist. Prime Minister Skerritt, you said that you expect some concrete movement on free movement of skills by the early part of next year. Could you fill us in, please, on the specifics of what it is that you hope to put in place? At present, there are a limited number of categories of people allowed to move and work freely throughout the Caribbean. What is it that you're proposing? Are you thinking of going big and throwing it open totally? The second part of my question, you said there were some legal challenges to overcome. But weren't those legal challenges apparent 25, 30 years ago? What's new now? And my last question to any one of the leaders, CARICOM is 50, and could you, for the benefit of the Caribbean public, help us to evaluate how effective to, in effect, grade CARICOM over the last 50 years on the big headline issues: free movement of skills, free movement in terms of travel, and all the other big headline issues. I understand it's a broad sweep, but 50 is a great time to reflect in such a manner.
Prime Minister Barbados, you'll take the first part.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Broad sweep might be, in cricketing terms, a swipe, but I don't go swiping outside the off stump lest you get caught. Suffice it to say that the heads have agreed that we are now moving beyond just the freedom of movement of skills to freedom of movement of people. Out of an abundance of caution and to be sure-footed, there are some aspects of the treaty that will require amendment, and therefore we are giving ourselves between now and the 30th of March 2024 to make the amendments, because we recognize as well that there may have to be an approach that does not put countries or make countries liable to any form of suit with respect to some of the rights. So there has to be a minimum set of rights guaranteed for the movement of citizens. That will be discussed and agreed upon. That will be captured in the amendments to the treaty. That will also have to be financed, and we're looking at the CARICOM Development Fund as being able to put in place the mechanism to guarantee that each country can bring its minimum level of services up to the same acceptable period and level. Against that backdrop, we give ourselves these few months. You ask what is different? The revised Treaty of Chaguaramas did not exist 30, 35 years ago, and that revised Treaty of Chaguaramas imposes certain precepts upon us that, unless we carve it out, will be there to make countries liable. During the pandemic, we had to carve out certain things. There were restrictions on movement for public health purposes. That was understood. The treaty provides for restrictions for national security purposes. The treaty provides for restrictions for balance of payments purposes. We have determined that in order to facilitate freedom of movement, we may have to do it in a way where we guarantee a minimum level of rights. And that may relate to primary education, as you heard Prime Minister Skerritt say, pre-primary, primary, secondary education. It may relate to primary health care. It may relate to emergency health care. We are already covered with Social Security rights through the agreement that exists in CARICOM. So what we are doing is to ensure that the desire of heads is met by the reality of implementation. And we give ourselves this period of time to be able to make the amendments to the treaty so that countries can do so without fear of any further recriminations. Thank you.
Thank you, PM.
That is why Prime Minister Skerritt said that the heads who founded this entity would be smiling on us, because in a very real sense, this is what ordinary people want. And I want to say something. In a region that is underpopulated, and in a region that is facing the most difficult crises, from climate to recovery from pandemic to debt to all kinds of other problems, if ever there was a time that we need to come together as one, it is now. And Prime Minister Skerritt was correct in saying that this conference reflected a mood of can-do and optimism, but realistic execution will ground us, and that is why we have fashioned it in the way that we have.
If I may be permitted a follow-up, Mr. Robertson, how big and broad do you intend to go beyond the limited category of workers now afforded those, if you like, privileges?
Mr. Gordon, I don't think you're understanding us, you know. Freedom of movement of people. So it's all, A-L-L. There's no services anymore.
All right.
And that's why you saw heads clap when the Prime Minister announced it, because this now gives full expression to what every Caribbean person has wanted since we've had control of our destiny.
Right.
Okay? What we want to do, however, is to ensure that when that movement takes place, that it takes place in a way that is orderly, that is effective, that gives true expression to what we want to do, but equally does not expose governments unnecessarily to problems that they would not otherwise have anticipated, okay, because of the treaty as it's currently drafted.
Good evening.
Yes, hold on. Yes.
Good evening,
young lady. Go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, heads of governments. Urvashi Tiwari Rupnarayan from TV6, Trinidad. I'm staying on the topic of free movement to live and work. Of course, Prime Minister Skerritt, in your opening statement, you did mention possibly more reliance on the regional security system and, of course, the implementation agency for crime and security impacts. But, of course, a few months ago, we know that these two agencies came under very much question with one judge describing, with what one judge described as the kidnapping of TNT national Brent Thomas. CARICOM citizens are somewhat still in the dark as to what exactly happened, how these two agencies were activated. Some are alleging unauthorized use of these agencies and alleged abuse of power. Did this fumble at all arise during your discussions? And of course, how can citizens be assured that this may not recur? Thank you.
Well, I don't think we can respond to this. Impacts and all of the security architecture, we believe that we accept and we know that they're operating within the laws of the countries. And they have served us well. And I think where we have to be very careful that we as politicians, whether we're in government or out of government, that we do not make statements that are not factual. And in order to seek to score political points. We have to be very careful that we don't unnecessarily put into question these institutions that are serving us well, especially where our own security within the region is concerned. So I do not subscribe to what you're saying, and therefore I cannot respond to your specific question with the allegations that have been made where impacts and others are concerned.
Good evening to you, Prime Minister Skerritt. Curtis Matthew from Dominica. My question is on the engagement between the U.S. and CARICOM this afternoon. You, Prime Minister Skerritt, said that you all have made some requests to the U.S. The embargo against Cuba, of course, sanctions on Venezuela. Was there any concrete commitment coming from the United States to CARICOM, especially as CARICOM celebrates its 50th anniversary? Thank you very much.
Well, our position on Cuba is well known. Both our founding fathers and ourselves have been very clear and strident with regards to the call for the removal of the blockade against Cuba. In respect to Venezuela, we have made it clear that we do not believe that there's a justification to have those sanctions on Venezuela. We in the Caribbean, especially those of us who have been signatories and beneficiaries of the Petro-Caribbean Agreement, have suffered immensely. And therefore, our citizens, especially with the high cost or price of petroleum products on the global market. And so we have seen the Petro-Caribbean Agreement virtually come to a halt in some of our countries because of the inability of Venezuela to export the petroleum products to our respective countries. And out of this Petro-Caribbean Agreement, because you have a deferred payment, especially when the price goes beyond $100 on the international market, a lot of these funds will be used by our respective countries for economic and social investments, and job creation. And so we believe that that the issue of sanctions on Venezuela should be removed, and allow the people of Venezuela to go about their lives, especially in these challenging times. We believe that there are other ways of us addressing our concerns, but certainly everyone else in the Caribbean should really be very firm in respect to our calls for the removal of the sanctions in Venezuela.
Did you all, Prime Minister, get any commitment from the U.S. on these matters?
Well, obviously they will note those requests and those submissions. They have raised certain issues of what Venezuela should do or should not do. Venezuela is a sovereign country, and so forth. Some of those things I personally don't agree with, but this is obviously the U.S. may have a particular reason why they have those sanctions in place, but from our vantage point, we don't think that there are any justifications for it. And after so many years, we believe that the time has come for those sanctions to be removed.
Thank you, Kijan.
Peter Richards.
Thanks, Kijan Haynes from Guardian Media Trinidad. Just tacking on to that question, as we are talking about Venezuela and Cuba, was there any discussion on a more tolerant approach to accepting refugees from those countries? And specifically to Dr. Rowley, any assurances from the U.S. about extending the temporary lifting of the sanctions, the 2-year agreement that we have to help us with our Dragon deal? Thank you.
We didn't get down to that level of specificity, but what you should understand is that we are, at the moment, engaged with the United States in a way that we have not before, and that is the first hurdle that we have to cross, and we make our case, and we continue to make them. We have further meetings with the United States delegation tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, so the conversations continue.
And on refugees?
No, the situation, we didn't actually have much of a discussion on refugees. I mean, Trinidad and Tobago in particular, we manage our situation with migrants under our Immigration Act, and we are a sovereign country, and we protect our interests in those matters. I see a lot of people taking it upon themselves to tell us what to do with and how and in our country. The bottom line is that we do have laws, and we are a country governed by laws, and we operate based on the laws that exist at the time.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Our first question online.
Sorry, just to further point, regards to our engagement with the United States, and I agree with the Prime Minister, there has been a heightened engagement by the United States. Coming from the Summit of the Americas, met with President Biden and Vice President Harris. We've met with Vice President Harris, I believe, last month in the Bahamas. And here today, not only the Secretary of State, but several Congress persons were here. We engaged ourselves in more than 2 hours, a number of items. And I think we are setting a very good platform for engagement with the United States. We have said to the United States that they have been overlooking us for way too long, and they have taken note of this, and we're seeing a practical change in the whole approach towards the Caribbean. and we welcome those engagements.
Thank you, PM. Our first question online, Erica Virtue of the Jamaica Gleaner. Erica, are you still with us?
Yes, I am hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are hearing you now.
Yes, I'm asking, what more can we be told of the specifics of the arrangement between what Rwanda has offered to the solution in the situation in Haiti, and what specific decisions did CARICOM itself take regarding the ongoing situation there?
Well, Rwanda, since last September, indicated its willingness to provide peacekeeping and security personnel and to help strengthen the National Police of Haiti, the Haitian National Police. There are a number of actions or steps we believe going forward which we need to take, and of course the Prime Minister of Haiti has made it very clear in numerous statements in Jamaica at the conference of engagement of the various stakeholders. He made it very clear here on a number of occasions that he will not seek election in Haiti, and that he is only prepared to lead a government up until the hosting of credible, free and fair elections. Now, we are also advancing the view that there must be a UN security resolution on the matter so that we can get a coalition of nations who are prepared to support the Haitian government, Haitian people, in addressing both the security and humanitarian crisis in Haiti. Now, the issue of financing of this, and we believe that France and Canada and the United States and others, it's a matter we have put to them, and we'll be advancing this from the Caribbean Committee standpoint to have these interventions financed. This is going to take us 1 year to 2 years. There also the issue of broadening the government so that there can be greater consensus among parties. That more stakeholders need to form part of a national government or in place in Haiti so that there can be greater buy-in to the actions that we need to take along with our brothers and sisters in Haiti. We have in place an eminent group of persons, 3 former prime ministers, Prime Minister Dr. Anthony of St. Lucia, Prime Minister Bruce Golden of Jamaica, and Prime Minister Perry Christie of the Bahamas. They've been working diligently in advancing the cause. They'll be going to Haiti next week to meet again with stakeholders. They'll be going to the United States to meet with stakeholders there and to ensure that they can get some kind of consensus. We believe that some of the actions that we are proposing there, based on consultation with the Haitian people, will put into a sharper focus the steps that we need to take so that we can get some resources to Haiti and seek to resolve the challenges confronting our Haitian brothers and sisters. But always noting that this will be and must be a Haitian-led solution. We are here at the back or at the side supporting them, but it must be a Haitian-led solution. And so we're simply here as brothers and sisters helping with advancing the cause to a solution to this crisis confronting our brothers and sisters.
Mr. Chairman, I should probably add also at this stage that Prime Minister Henry would have specifically asked for a derogation from the freedom of movement agreement that we would have made among ourselves, given their circumstances, and we have agreed. So I just put that on the table for the avoidance of doubt. Thank you.
Thank you, PM. There's a second question online before we come back in the room. Jacqueline Charles, Miami Herald.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Prime Minister Skerritt, I just want to be clear on the Haiti issue. And I have one other about arms by the arms. Are you saying that CARICOM has changed its position since February on supporting an international force for Haiti? Because when that issue came up, CARICOM opted to focus more on the police and did not take a decision on that. And then second, on the issue of arms with the United States, did you all specifically raise the issue with Secretary Blinken about the U.S. doing more to control its borders, and did he make any promises to that effect?
Yes. Well, in regards to our intention there is to strengthen the police, the Haitian police, in order to create a corridor, a safe corridor, to be able to bring in the humanitarian support which Haiti desperately needs at this time. The reality is, as far as we understand it, the Haitians who are going to bed hungry, the Haitians who have no access to food, and therefore we need to create this safe corridor to bring this humanitarian support. At present, if you send, as you may know, Ms. Charles, if you send any quantity of food items to Haiti, it will not get to the beneficiaries. And how do we get this? Strengthening the national police, providing them with the resources, providing them with the advice they require, and create that safe corridor so that we can have the resources coming in. So we ameliorate the security situation, and we allow the environment to be safe enough to bring in the humanitarian support so that we can have peace and tranquility, hopefully, in Haiti, and move to the other political issues of free and fair elections and have a properly elected government for the people of Haiti. So these are some of the things that we're looking at. And all of these things are coming out of the consultations with the Haitian stakeholders. These are not things that we have created within CARICOM. They're all based on what the stakeholders are saying to us, and we're capturing the threads of what they're saying. And this is what we're saying could be the next steps for this. In respect to the United States, as we said, this question of what is the U.S. view on Haiti and how the U.S. sees itself being able to support. As we speak, the U.S. continues to provide support to the Haitian National Police. Secretary Blinken indicated, because we shared with him our views, our thinking, and he indicated to us that what we're proposing is really not far away from their own thinking. So it's a matter for us now and the Security Council, or the Security Council folks to really look at the situation and seek to pass a resolution. There are some countries we need to speak to as CARICOM, and we have taken on ourselves to speak to those countries who are members of the Security Council so that we can have unanimity at the Security Council, so that we can give the cover to many countries who would like to participate in providing the support to the Haitian people on the ground.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Peter?
Peter Richards, Caribbean Media Corporation.
One minute. There's another part to that question which hasn't been answered, is whether the United States has accepted that more can be done at their end with respect to the illicit trade in firearms. And the answer is yes. That was a major part of our discussion with the United States and among ourselves. And we're happy to report that we are seeing some specific actions by the United States in that direction.
Peter Richards, Caribbean Media Corporation, Barbados. I think I just heard the Prime Minister of Barbados make reference to the fact that the Haitians have put something on the table that I wasn't clear. Are we saying within the whole context of the CSME, the free movement that we're trying to move towards, would the issue of visas needed by Haitians to visit some Caribbean countries, would that be eliminated? Would that be removed? And secondly, Prime Minister Skerritt, you talked about a retreat in Dominica on August 18th and 19th to discuss, quote, some critical and core issues. Could you expand on what you mean by critical and core issues? Thank you.
If I may, the status quo remains. What we've said is that the Prime Minister of Haiti asked that the arrangements that we put in place for freedom of movement, that Haiti be excused from those arrangements, a derogation. And we have agreed, because Haiti's circumstances obviously different at this point, and it's a very delicate situation. So the status quo will remain for those countries who, in fact, still have visa requirements for Haitians traveling. Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Yes, the number of issues that we have set ourselves a time frame towards action. You have issues of trade barriers, and the president of Guyana, in his presentation on food and nutrition security, highlighted the need for us to address the issue of trade barriers. The other issue of governance within the Caribbean community, the issues within governance, the issues of security, taking stock of the geopolitics of the world and how do we position ourselves going forward. COP28 is coming, that we need to have a clearly defined, cohesive position going to COP28 where every one of us will speak from the same hymn sheet. And then you have issue of climate financing, the need for the reform or transformation of the international financial systems and architecture, so that we can have a better deal for ourselves here within the Caribbean community. So these are some of the issues that we need to look at, and there are some other functional cooperation areas that we need to look at to enhance the cooperation among CARICOM countries. Yeah.
I noticed so far tonight we've not spoken on the issue of transportation, and more specifically air transportation yet.
Sure. Well, yes, we discussed a number of issues. We're simply highlighting some of them because of time. But yes, we received a report on air transportation. Caribbean Airlines has been doing a fantastic job thus far in seeking to help fill the void that has been created with the absence of Hyatt. And then you have other airlines. You have Bahamas Air that'll be looking at doing some flights within the Caribbean and onto North America as well. And we thank the Prime Minister of Bahamas for this. Inter-Caribbean has increased the number of additional flights. Inter-Caribbean is from Turks and Caicos. I mean, they have really been lifesavers for us, especially during COVID time and with the absence of Hyatt. We mandated the CDB to engage in a study and to examine air transport within the Caribbean community and to come up with some recommendations on how we should go about addressing this issue with the absence of Hyatt. The CDB has completed this study. In terms of the here, I'm hoping that we, in respect, which we believe what we're doing. There's that's the issue. But played the absence.
The government received an exact in that uptake and by the leaders
and the believe mechanism the minister kept up even becomes to have difficulty have, and if the you can constraint of access to both cooperative one
not being a economy. On that.
The suppliers.
To know. Take it.
Call out will be cool.
This yes, they would free movement of people. We have able to fuel the aspiration to show people don't have.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The one on
from the Prime Minister asked for. So then as the government
regards no subsidy. Okay, so the issue on Martin associate member discussion with Dominic in of CARICOM. Question on it. We had engaged Dominican Republic, but discussion. In those discussions, the CARICOM has CARICOM the number of countries to 10 in many to be part.
Is 20 has been implemented and for of has their
for the forms of transport here and the retreat completed a number that need and eyes this and pointed at some kind of work treat so that we can as though they said the circumstances are changing every single day. There are some structural problems, some institutional problems that we are resolving. Take, for example, the issue of poultry. From 2020 to now, there are three key inputs in terms of feed production: rice, corn, and soya. You had a 100% increase in the cost of rice as an input, and between 65 and 55% in the cost of corn and soya. We, as a region, our total forward planning capacity in terms of storage for corn, rice, and soya, we can only store 20% of what we require. So when there is a glut on the market and the prices are low, we cannot make use of that because there is no storage capacity. So we are now pointing these facts out to the private sector so they can now see the viability of investing in the storage facility. And we have a number of countries who are now partnering in relation to this. So it's a issue that is evolving. Whether we are on track, based on our original targets, we are doing well, and I believe that we have now the real possibility of meeting those targets. Yesterday in Trinidad and Tobago, they have distributed, I think, 75 tons of paddy, and they're going back into rice production. 3,000 acres, seed paddy. They're going back into the production of rice. 3,000 acres of rice. Barbados, going now into the production of prawns, setting up the food terminal, putting up the sanitary guidelines. So St. Lucia, diversifying their agriculture portfolio. In every single country, we have seen more investment, more interest, more dynamism, and this is going in the right direction. We're also looking to use technology, looking at hydroponics, looking at aquaculture, high-yielding crops. So it is a very, very integrated and holistic plan that seeks to justify the rate of return, that seeks to rebuild interest. We're also focusing on research and development, the removal of the barriers. So it's a very complex plan that I think, to do justice to what we're doing in many of these areas. I've heard Prime Minister Skerritt, we need to have maybe a session with the media, a whole day session in the media as to where we are going and how we are going and what we're doing to get where we want to be. I believe that we have set ourselves some self-imposed targets, some self-imposed barriers within ourselves to get these things done, and you must appreciate that. I'm very, very confident that at 50, we are on the right track and in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. President.
Can I just follow up, please? Thank you very much, Mr. President. But could you or Prime Minister Motley give an update on where is the progress on the Barbados-Guyana food terminal?
We actually have the private sector working with us, and ironically, it's also a Trinidadian enterprise, so it's really a misnomer to just say Barbados-Guyana, because it is Barbados-Guyana, Trinidad, in terms of the structure of the investment, the source of produce, and the agro-processing that will take place. We've identified the lands in Liers in St. Michael in Barbados. The designs for the buildings are completed, and I would expect that they should be going in to the planning department, and the appropriate studies for environmental impact assessment, etc., are going to be undertaken very shortly to be able to facilitate the planning considerations.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we could stay here whole night, but unfortunately this has come to an end, and I want to thank the heads of government and the Secretary General for being available for your questions. Thank you and good night.